Happy Sunday, December the 22nd. Let's do a brief sound check. We have an important part 2 update. Yeah. We have an important part 2 update checking in with the Galactic Council of Nine to discuss part 2 of what's going on. There are a lot of moving parts with orbs, drones, planes, plasmoids, Sylphs. We can discuss what that is if you'd like. Different vortexes, um, and the UFO, UAP, what is what anymore is what some of you may be asking. And it's a darn good question, right? So many questions concerning all of this. So happy December the 22nd, 1222, 1222. From the cosmic and astrological perspective, there's a lot of energy in those numbers. I talked to you about the portal of 1212 and that it would be going on and that we would have different updates from the 1212 portal. And in its rebirthing significance for us who are working on the ascension process and going through our full heart space right now and opening up to who we are is going to be very important to kind of keep your eyes open without going too deeply into any rabbit holes because there are a lot of moving parts. And, our world governments are going to probably tell us absolutely zero about these moving parts until they absolutely have to. And then by the time they do tell us that, um, it'll be kind of a response that's, yeah, and right, cheers. Um, so just getting a few things going on. Let's do a few homework, a little bit of announcements before we get going. I pinned to the top of the page if you like a lot of my channelings, and if you'd like more of my channelings, I have a 2-year, I think you'd have to ask our moderators because it's recently changed. It's either 2 years or 3 years worth of a lengthier recorded library of my work, which isn't on here. Both in channelings and classes. All classes are channeled, so feel free. If you see something that says class, all of my work comes through channeling, whether it be in trance or semi-trance, and feel free to join that. There's a little note pinned at the top of the page for you on that. How's everyone doing? Everyone's doing well? 2 years, okay. Thank you. 2 years worth of my work, still a very long time. Where do we want to start? I was just giving everyone a chance to join in before we start the channeling. Let's just discuss everything that they've brought to my attention these past 2 weeks. If you want the part 1 of this energy update for what's going on in our skies, it's there in my YouTube playlist right under Galactic Channelings. And it was we did this live about 7 days or so ago. So when we started this was well before the 1212 portal, when people were coming forth. um, with a lot of videos. Remember, the council said in 2020 that around this time that we would have so many things in our skies that we wouldn't know what was what. We're here now. 1212 portal began, at least the observation, not the beginning of what is happening, but the observation of what is happening from, those of us in ground crew. And now we're about halfway through this 1212 portal, which signifies rebirth and the alchemy of rebirth and going into what you want to change and what space you want to hold for that change in your life. That's what 1212 is about. But in the beginning of that gateway and how it opened, it was move one step forward, one step back, another step forward, another step back. That's what 1, 2, 1, 2 signifies. Now we have 1, 2, 2, 2. One step forward, a couple steps back, and then a couple more steps forward, and then a couple more steps forward. So 1, 2, 2, 2. We're moving through different realms of reality with many conscious and subconscious choices individually and collectively. This means that by the time 11125 comes around at the beginning of the 2025 portal for the new year, we're going into the significance of trusting everything that we see, aligning those periods of rebirth, which were formerly experienced beginning in your 1212 time space distortion, magnified very deeply on 1222, midway through that vortexes into the gateway of the new year, which signifies a very interesting theme. We've gone through rebirth. So, what do you think that 1/11/2025 is going to be about? It's about trusting your vibration and amplifying your soul, trusting your vibration. You rebirthed on 1212, made some changes. Now you're grounding into those changes for who you are in deep radical acceptance. And on 1/11, there's this energy of, okay, I've done the work. Now it's time for me to vibrate my full body, mind, spirit, essence based upon what I had chosen on 1212, worked through on 1222. We're holding the line of 1222 of everything that we went through on 1212 in that rebirth, and now just staying the course until 1/11/25. And 1/11/25 is okay, this is the new vibration, and I can fully embody it now and amplify it to the world. Amplification of your own vibration in a Trinity consciousness. So the year that we're going about represents amplifying not through duality, but through not through two, but through the Trinity in threes and everything that that mystically represents according to the Galactic Council of Nine here with us today. So the Trinity consciousness isn't the polarism that you've been experiencing for the past 40 years of our Earth cycle. In this unique consciousness, you get to understand one, two, these two ways, the dualism, the polarity of dark and light, and everything that you've personally attributed in those meanings, all the vibrations that come therewith. And then there's another consciousness that bridges everything together in 2025, beginning on 1/11. It is the year of the Trinity, the year of the middle way, the year of full sacred convergence and the beginning of an entire new 40-year cycle of human conscious collective mind, body, spirit evolution. That's all of us. What is this unique significance of this year? It's Trinity Consciousness, the middle way, as well as what we're going through now, the continuation of the sacred convergence, pulling everything down into three potential timelines, three potential experiences. But while we're still working with expansion from the threes, we're also able to hold our own vibration, amplify it properly into the world, and accept other people's choices in duality. That's a new way. That is a pioneered consciousness. This is different than anything that you've ever done before, which is so important. I'm not one to come on here and tell you to be perpetually looking up at the skies all the time. It's just never really been my jive. And the council has always said it's not an ascension. We're not going anywhere. It is an ascension. We are going within, finding our vibration, birthing and rebirthing who we are, and then finding a middle way in all alleged external environments, amplifying our vibration so strongly that we move into sacred convergence with every other timeline of free agency choosing, with all of those you love surrounding you in your world. And that is so, so beautiful, so different. Visionaries of the world, it's your time to really embark upon a new creative vision of who you are and who you would like to be, how you would like to amplify this newer understanding of who you are in the path of the Trinity Consciousness. Sacred convergence is about seeing all of the choices in the world. We used to operate in 175,000 year cycles, and now, for the past decade, we've been operating in something unique. We had a 40-year cycle for the first time, and now we have the second 40-year cycle that we're working through now. And on 1/11/2025, we will have the third 40-year cycle. This means we no longer take 175,000 years to evolve or 175 years. We now take 40 years to work through individual and creative expansion opportunities spiritually. That's huge. Get it? Think with me for a moment. Feel that 175,000 years. That's how long it would take us to expand. Then we moved into 40,000 years. And now we're at 40 years. It takes us 40 years, and we're on the third cycle of 40 years. What does that mean? Well, our starseed family, they are just this is a remembrance of who you are, who you were, and who you want to be, the council says. So that means that the perception of everything out there that is in the skies will be incredibly vast. Again, many moving parts, most of which are governments aren't going to tell you about anytime soon. And yes, they are very well aware of some components of what is in your skies, but they're not going to divulge that to you until they absolutely have to. Till they absolutely have to. So it's been frustrating for me as I provide world predictions and go into individual and collective perceptions of the fluidity of time. It was easier to predict until we got on those 40-year cycles. It was easier to predict until we amplified from so many different free agency creative paths. We went from 3 to 11 to 13 different free will paths of creation. And we kept going and going and going. And now we have not just 3, but we have hundreds of billions of different free agency paths. Why? Because there are hundreds of billions of versions of you. And each of them are mastering something in their unique ascension module in unique individual manners. Each of them. And they are spread out throughout the parallel realms of time. And if they get so far out, you believe that's past. And if they get so far mastered and so far out, you believe that is called future. You are beginning to see all versions of you visiting you in your skies. And you also have people in this parallel environment who are operating from a perspective that those things in the skies are strictly governmental. You have some people operating with their beliefs that it would be strictly hobbyist. You're operating in some belief systems that some people believe they're going to be many days and periods of darkness coming up soon. Some people believe that this is that some of the drones are being operated by extraterrestrial craft. Some of you believe that it is foreign entity craft. But because there are so many vast choices in timelines, And all versions of those hundreds of billions of thought streams coming from hundreds of billions of other yous in parallel realms, because they're you, they're coming all into this timeline. Everything is converging into this timeline. So there aren't just one, there won't be just one race of beings coming to see you. Every time you switch your thought stream, you tap into another realm, another parallel realm, which holds another version of you in that parallel timeline, who is mastering his, her, them, they unique ascension process powerfully. And when you think upon something in that instant, if your thought stream and the frequency of that thought stream is powerful enough, and if that thought stream reaches many, many hundreds of billions of versions of you, you will have hundreds of billions of versions of timelines converging. And the best we can hope for is that we don't go into complete chaotic meltdown, which we have already begun to do. That's the hard news out of everything here today. The good news is you need to learn how to be able to hold different truths in both of your hands. And there's more than one version of truth, as you know, because you have more than one thought. You have more than one way that you wish to amplify and create. And you have more than one version of you throughout parallel realms of time. It's really going to be important to understand this as opposed to listening to predictions that are coming through and someone says, no, our governments don't know about it. No, they do. No, it's just the galactic beings in the sky and they're from this one race. There's about 13 different versions of you wanting to come through in the skies right now, according to the Galactic Council of Nine, who is here with us today. 13 extraterrestrial races coming through in various parallel realms of time. They are future you who have evolved very distinctly. And if you think that your governments don't know something about this, you've got your head in the sand. Pull it out. So let's go through the what is what in the skies. Let's go through that. Let's see how much time we've got. Just a few minutes for this. So I'm going to go on speed, like quick speed channeling. All right. In some of your versions of parallel timelines, there are generators being transported by night throughout your major interstates of New Jersey and upstate New York, going all the way into the Midwestern states. Those generators have very little to do with what's in your skies. They have more to do with preparations for a period of time when we could be experiencing quite a few different things at once. And those generators are preparing for periods of time when we don't have access to potential resources in our energy resources like electricity and internet. Those generators are prepared to help back us up. And there are several potential outcomes that our governments are preparing for. One of those outcomes would be our future President Trump coming in after inauguration and imposing tariffs on Canada, and Canada making the decision to shut off our resources. Now, will they do that immediately? No, it won't be like, okay, we don't accept this tariff. It'll be, oh, the chances are that you've just given us a tariff, we're going to give you one back. And if that doesn't work, then we're going to cut off your resources. And that will affect many Midwestern states that are directly south and going all the way down from Canada. That will affect a lot of us. Another thing that they are preparing for in the potential is that we are moving through a unique and quicker accelerated geomagnetic activity from an accelerated shift in our Earth poles. And you probably are noticing this, some things like birds migrating the wrong way and the sky's getting super confused. These are all signs of an impending and pole shift. So that could affect our resources. Um, we might have to have generators, particularly in case we lose energy resources around major world airports and transportation systems. We would need to be prepared for that. Um, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But insofar as the generators, they're preparing for a lot of different potentials. All right. That's why they're going up and down the roads at night. And then there have been some fallen craft that are being transported up and down your streets in broad daylight, just hidden in plain sight, covered by a tarp. Um, Insofar as the drones, again, there aren't just one type of drones. You have the hobbyist and the commercial drones, but and I think that there are some things that are going on. There are certain types of drones that are foreign entity they're from foreign entities for sure. And then so that's one thing. We have the foreign entity drones, basically with spyware looking and seeing what's going on, trying to suss out um, how clear our nuclear reactors are in certain areas of the world and our nuclear plants, trying to um, see how active and unsecured our military bases in the United States would be right now. So we have two different countries sending those foreign types of drones coming over from them, just watching and bringing information back. And then you have the extraterrestrial, I'd say that they were these drones that are coming through that are reverse engineered. And these reverse engineering technologies they're not new types of technologies. These drones that have been reverse engineered have been around since Project Blue Book and Project Blue Beam. Those things have been around for a very long time. All right, very long time. And they make some interesting noises when they fly over your cars. They interfere with your radio waves, and some people were having some fear-based moments when those particular reverse engineered military craft from our governments. Yes, they do know about it. It's our own military. Of course, they know about it. Um, they're looking to see why there are spy drones and for these foreign entity drones that are surrounding our nuclear reactors and our military bases, and they are they're trying to observe these. You'll see some of these craft being shot down in the skies. Um, and those drones do have the capacity to work in a unique way. All right. And they can, some people are claiming that they're looking for radioactive material, some missing radioactive material. I would say that there is a yes and a no to that, according to the council, and it shouldn't be something that concerns us. They're not so concerned about what they feel they're looking for in that regard. They're mostly the military reverse engineered craft drones are trying to get an eye on those spy drones that are from foreign entities, and they're trying to determine, what they're doing, what information they're bringing back. They're trying to shoot them down to see if there is any information on the drone that they can bring back and, you know, kind of look into, kind of see what's going on there. Different foreign entities spying on our government is not a new thing. That's not a new concept. There are certain foreign entity craft that are very good at that and been doing that for a long time. We just don't notice them as much as we do now. Um, and then you have the question that you were bringing to me on Patreon is why are the drones spraying into the ocean? So, because there have been a lot of disturbances from radiation just going amok and too much ozone. There's been some geomagnetic problems and disturbances in our air. Um, some of the foreign entity craft that were coming in and spying were also emitting some sort of magnetic material of some kind. And that would be damaging in a sense if it got too much into our waters. So there appeared to be some sort of drone spraying into our ocean, and they weren't spraying anything negative. When I looked at those videos, many of you sent me some videos about looking at this and seeing what it was, and the council said, those craft are actually putting forth some sort of material into the waters and into the skies that can help. And then it can help disperse a lot of the radiation that's been in our skies because of something that's been going on for a while. Something that's been going on for a while that our governments aren't going to tell you is that we are under attack. And those missiles have been aimed at our nuclear facilities, and many foreign entity missiles, nuclear missiles, have been, shot at us, and they have been, when they're shot down out of the sky by our unique military craft, they emit a lot of radiation. They emit a lot of material into our skies and waters. So that's another thing that you need to be aware of. When Putin made those threats, he wasn't playing. He wasn't playing around, and no one took him seriously. So he did shoot off those craft, but he's not the only one. He has allies. He has allies, so he's looking to see where our craft is and where our bases are. And our craft has been shooting down those nuclear missiles that were directed at our military bases, at some of the homes of and places where President Trump would live and vacation and golf and so many different areas. Um, and our craft shot them down. Radiation went everywhere. And then we had some reverse engineer craft come in and clear that from our skies and then clear that from our waters. We also have these vortexes that are opening, and then these beings called sylphs are coming through. And many people are mistaking sylphs for orbs. But the orbs there are many different types of orbs, and we'll get to that in a moment. But right now we're talking about the sylphs because they are massive plasmoid type, sentient plasmoid type of extraterrestrial beings. They're not just orb shaped, they move, and they move in a way that's kind of like jelly. And when they go through and they clear the air or they clear water, they can also disperse a spraying effect from them. And that's some of the things you were seeing over the oceans as well. So we had our craft doing that, and we had these plasmoid sentient beings called sylphs that are definitely beautiful, and they've been in our skies and waters, clearing our skies and our waters for a long time. It just happens to be that you are finally resonating in your own unique and collective ascension path so that your vibration is such that you can observe, and some of you are even communicating with them and having a beautiful, loving, telepathic conversations with them. But they're huge, they're bigger, they're as big, the smallest sylph could be, say, as big as a house. They're huge. The largest sylph would say be the size of a very large stratus cloud. So they're massive, and they also can. These sylphs can reflect things. That's another thing that's going on. The sylphs are not the only type of extraterrestrial beings that can do that, but when they can do this unique thing, that when the sylphs go through the air, not only can they clean radiation from our skies and from our waters, um, they can disperse, they can also break up missiles and send it in opposing directions and then clear those fields, those airfields from whatever material comes from them when they are dispersed in that manner. But they don't do that by shooting it down. That's one thing they can do. There's just so many things that these beings can do. And they can split, so you can see one massive sylph, and it's kind of like jelly. It moves in this amorphous pattern, and then you can notice that it duplicates things. It can mimic things, so it can do these unique things. It's incredibly intelligent. The sylphs are very, very intelligent, so much more than us, and much more than most beings. They have an idea of how to protect this planet, and they can mimic ships. They can move their form in this way that, say, if there was one sylph, it can break into about 50 of them that look like orbs that are moving together, and they can mimic other craft. So if you say you see 50 drones moving in a unique, succinct pattern in your skies, you may also see a sylph breaking into 50 orbs, mimicking exactly that, attempting to mimic that for whatever reason. And then you see these drones shooting at the mimicking sylph and its 50 versions of itself. And then it does this thing where it reflects and bounces back energy and everything's refractory. So then things go straight through it and it'll disperse a little bit, move in this amorphous style, and then come back together in its wholeness, in its whole jelly type of form again. So a sylph is an incredibly sentient plasmoid type of being. And those have been in our skies for a very long time. They clear chemtrails, they do amazing things. And you see some videos going around TikTok right now, if you guys are familiar with Drone Talk, where you can see these little kids talking to them and they will blink in the skies or flash at them or do something beautiful to confirm that children are talking to them. They protect whales and dolphins in our oceans, and they do some really, really beautiful things. And they're ancient. These aren't new things. It's just that our vibration is finally catching up to theirs to the extent that we can not only see them, but have beautiful, healing, loving experiences with them. And of course, they are protective. They're protective and they don't want, it wouldn't be good for any other planet with life, and there are many of them in our galaxy, to have nuclear problems or a third world war. Therefore, whatever's happening is preventing that third world war, even though our countries are not getting along and there's a lot going on politically behind the scenes. We've been in that war for a while now. It's just that it's happening in a way that you're not privy to because governments aren't going to tell us. They're just not going to tell anyone. So we only have our councils to divulge the truth about it. And then we have these beautiful sentient beings who are protective. So sylphs, orbs, some are conscious beings, some are vortexes that have been there a very, very, very long time. Why do you think all these things started in New Jersey? There was a massive vortex that people knew about, and they were having similar experiences back in the 70s. And then this kind of just got swept under the rug. And, unless you live in New Jersey, you probably never even heard of it, right? But some of you New Jersey people may remember a time, when you had a similar experience. So this is a repeat of that experience with that unique vortex. And orbs come out of it because they are conscious beings who hold a space for other craft to utilize their energy field as a means of time circumvention. So they are conscious beings who can open up a space where a vortex is a vortex would be accessible, but not exactly um, accessible in a way you could travel through per se. And then those orbs would make that possible somehow for other beings to come into our environments. Some of those beings are protective and some of those beings are malevolent. I'm just gonna tell you like it is. That's why you come to this channel, is to get the truth and nothing but the truth. But the confusing thing is there are so many types of beings. Again, the council is telling us today that we have 13 unique types of beings. We have some beings that have been there for a long time from the Council of Nine, particularly the Essassani from the council. You have the Ra group, which are primarily Andromedan and Arcturian. You have some Pleiadians who have been coming in and out of these vortexes for a long time. So the fact that you're seeing them now is only an attribution to the truth that your vibration is shifting so powerfully that you have the capacity to see and have unique, beautiful interactions with them in this time. That's what makes this time so beautifully powerful. Like we've never really done anything exactly like this. And One of my spirit guides, Dolores Cannon, is incredibly excited, and she's on the council as well to talk to you anytime today or anytime you want her to come through. Um, so some of these orbs are also plasmoid type of beings. So that is science. For those of you who do not believe in plasmoids, go to the Journal of Modern Physics. It created an 88-page document full of pictures and videos about what plasmoids are. So plasmoids can come as like they can be natural plasma formations caused by the increased solar activity. I mean, keeping in mind that we are on solar cycle 65, our sun is a little tired, and it produces plasmoids because it's on such an accelerated cycle. And we're on, again, sun cycle 65. We have a lot of things going on in our skies caused by the rays of the sun. Our ozone is decreasing. So many things are going on in that way. And then you have the natural plasmoid formations that are caused by that increased solar activity. All right. You also have human-made technology creating and amplifying plasma-like effects. Hello, Willow chip. So Willow is something we'll probably have to keep an eye on for a while now, because that's just now it's being in creation for a while, finally got out of testing, and it's being utilized, and it is opening wormholes. Like it is opening, it's like tearing, putting a tear through the fabric of the time-space continuum, and that invites all sorts of beings that does all sorts of things. So the Willow project is definitely human made. It's creating a lot of plasma like effects and plasmoids as well. um, and then and then you have the drones out there that are observing so much. You have some drones that are observing, testing, testing our waters, making sure our waters are clean. You have the spy drones, you have the hobbyist drones. But what's going to be interesting is I thought this was kind of a, according to the council, a not so intelligent move on the behalf of the American government in New Jersey when they made a law to temporarily halt our airspace, and make drone flying for hobbyists and commercial drones illegal right now. It's probably a bad idea for governments who wish to avoid disclosure, because now you're going to be seeing the other types of drones that don't care about your airspace. You may see some temporary pause from the hobbyists and the copycats that are trying to be internet famous on TikTok. You may see a cessation in that, but it won't take long for the foreign entity drones to invade your airspace as well. But at least now they won't be as hidden. But then how are you going to actually hide your military drones that are doing their jobs and trying to send out protective type of they do a lot of things. There's some satellite drones. There's some drones that disperse nuclear material. There's some drones that send back graphics and photos and information, data sets of information of what's going on. And they can do that for a lengthy time away, a lengthy amount of airspace. They can see when, a foreign nuclear missile is coming in our direction. And then we have all this other craft in our skies that are willing to shoot those things down. So we have a bunch of different craft that you typically wouldn't be privy to. So it's interesting to me, that you want to take down all the hobbyist craft, because now we're going to see what's going on even more. It's not going to make this stop just because we don't have the copycat hobbyist drones in the skies anymore, right? I want to talk about not too long ago. I don't remember the exact date, but one of you sent me a little video and said, "Hey, NASA always has this live feed of space, and they cut their live feed. Do you guys remember this? They cut their live feed, their feed in space, like after this large UAP comes across its view, and suddenly it was, you know, static on that they just cut the live feed without any explanation, right? So for those of you who are saying, oh yeah, that's probably a drone, Drones don't work in space. I'm just saying. So, that UAP, when the council examined it, was a unique extraterrestrial nature, and it was a Pleiadian UAP. Definitely positive. It was protecting us from the malevolent beings that are out there, the Essassani and the Pleiadians and the the Galactic Fleet Commander Kaya, who I channeled for you not too long ago, about maybe 6 or 7 months ago. She is one of the fleet commanders that is on that craft. And we have access to her all the time. She can tell you exactly what she sees. She is on the council. She tells me every day what she's seeing out there. So I found it funny that that was her craft that made NASA cut off the feed. And then an Essassani craft came over as well immediately behind her right after they cut it off. And I don't know when they put it back live again. So it's interesting to me. It's just interesting to me what they're willing to call hobbyist drones and even things that are coming across, you know, NASA, live feeds, and then they cut it and don't even talk about, oh yeah, that was there. Well, some people watch and record those feeds and they're paying attention. Wrong side. Such an ADHD move. So I also want to talk about NASA's exploration in Antarctica. That's another moving part that can fit into this. Um, so NASA discovered, for those of you who don't know, backward neutrons. They move backward in time. That defies the physics of our world. How come nobody's talking about that? That's incredible. So, in that sense, amidst all these different extraterrestrial beings, we have Proxima A, we have Alpha Centauri, we have Essassani, Pleiadian, we have some Lyrans, we have some Alpha Draconi, we have some Beta Draconi, we have some Zeta Reticuli, and we have a lot of different versions and species of grays, all observing and all observable by us in our skies and on the NASA feeds. And then simultaneously, we find these backward moving neutrons. It's like, imagine throwing a football forward. Things tend to move forward when we create. But in this realm, it's a parallel realm where when you create, it goes backwards. Imagine throwing a football and it loops around and goes backwards. It moves in that those neutrons move and create. And imagine manifesting the future backwards. When you attempt to go forward, everything goes back to the start. What does that tell us? In that parallel realm, that tells us a little bit about time. That tells us that the past is someone else's, that's our future. Like, we are the past for the beings that are observing us in our skies right now, and they are our future. That's why we're able to observe them. All of these vortexes that are opening, all of these tunnels that create an option to move through time and to circumvent time. It could be also due to the fact that we have this entire parallel universe, this entire vortex that creates this for us. So that's a beautiful discovery, and it opened on its own. NASA didn't open it. People working in Antarctica didn't open it. It opened on its own because of the unique amplification of the high geomagnetic energies, the high geomagnetic activities from this accelerated pole shift. And then suddenly we have so many things happening. So many things happening. You know, if you think about all the grounded airplanes that have been happening, and our airlines have had so many interesting experiences. Interesting experiences. It's like someone doesn't even want you to be in the air right now because their equipment is shifting a lot and moving a lot and not exactly reliable during these geomagnetic activities. Imagine that parallel realm and that vortex surrounding the parallel realm that NASA discovered with the backwards neutrons. Imagine that opening up further and then affecting our skies when we're trying to get somewhere on time. It could be helpful, it could be not so helpful. But this was discovered at the same time all of these beautiful future versions of ourselves from Alpha Centauri, Proxima Centauri, Essassani people, um, the Alpha Draconi, the Beta Draconi, the Pleiadians, the Lyrans, the various versions of us in our skies. They are in our future. And then we have this parallel time universe moving through. We've discovered that. We are their past. So, of course, they want us to do well because it would help them affect their future. And they're going to operate through time very differently than we do. But it's time that we learn the deeper truths about how time operates. It's just time. It's time, pun intended. So, um, some of these orbs with where we're really going with this is that some of these orbs are vortexes that are quantum, what the council is calling quantum entanglement portals. And that creates the potential to move forward in time very quickly or to move through that portal. Then you'd be in a realm where people are your past. So if we go through that realm, we get to experience a time where we very quickly evolve into our true galactic, cosmic, extraterrestrial nature. Those beings are all us, remember that. If they move through those orbs, which are quantum entanglement portals, they get to experience life as human and they get to come to Earth. But the truth is, they don't really want to come to Earth. If they wanted to land and come here and become human, they already would have. And some of them already have throughout the many, many decades in this last 40-year ascension cycle. Some of them already have. All right. Yeah. Questions. Questions before we have to close. And again, a lot of moving parts here. We have our starseed family, our future versions of ourselves in the skies right now looking out for us. But no, they don't want to land exactly right now, but they will. They will. They will at some point. But will they land and come out and interact with us? Some of them will, some of them won't. Um, what the council has shown me about that is that there are some craft out there that are conscious. They are plasmoid beings that are also merging in and out of time to create light into density, like that experience of light into density. And they are craft and they are conscious. So you have orbs that are evolving in and out of our time. They can move just so quickly through the light years. And those are conscious orb craft. And there are other extraterrestrial languages for this. Some call those craft the Kaluakai. The Kaluakai craft are craft that actually, for lack of a better term, um, they would have like a soul, something similar to the human soul, except it's not, it's just a consciousness. And in that way, it can move out of our way very quickly. Um, it can evade being seen, or it can purposely become seen. So some of them over the next 5 years between 2000, late 2028 and late 2029. That's where we are in our timeline right now for that. These particular types of craft will be landing and they will densify into a pearlescent type of hardened shell. And it'll just, when it lands on the ground and it doesn't do anything. Beings don't come out of it. It was out of all the different type of craft that land and eventually will begin to land. They don't want to right now. There's no reason to right now. If we give them reason to, when they finally do want to interact with us, they will send this pod type of craft. It's white, it's pearlescent, but when the sun hits it, it becomes many different rays of color, some of which we couldn't possibly know because our the cones and rods in our eyes don't even can't even see everything that would be operating. So they call them, in our language, prism, the prism craft, or the Kulakatai, and they will give you all versions of yourself. So when you sit in front of the craft, say if it lands somewhere, you could just sit in the grass and sit there, and it will mirror the different vibrations that you hold, the different vibrations that you hold. Say if you have a thought, it will mirror that back to you and show you what it's like to externally experience that thought, which is very helpful for healing negative belief systems. It's very helpful for healing the negative belief systems that can cause horrendous neurological diseases, some of which we don't have cures for right now, such as MS, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. We're going to have some over the course of the next 5 to 6 years cures. And the beings don't even have to come out of the craft. They just put this conscious prism type of orb looking craft in front of us, this pod prism craft. It lands, and the only thing we need to do is sit there and observe it. So you'll notice people come and scientists will do their thing and block it off, and governments won't let anyone near it. But once they determine that it isn't going anywhere, they can't blow it up, they can't remove it, they can't return it, and it's not doing anything. Science can't measure what it does. So eventually, the public will be invited to, come and sit in front of it and get close to it and touch it. And people will experience beautiful mental and physical healings because of what it does. What these crafts do is they send your own vibration back to you in a way where you can handle it and manage it and become aware of it. And then you can activate all of your chakra systems. For those who are ready, you could activate all of your chakra systems at the same time, open them all up, experience Kundalini awakenings that you've never really had access to before. People will have instantaneous spiritual awakenings. Beautiful things will happen. It'll be one of the weirdest things that you could possibly imagine. So recently, I was a guest and I did a lot of channeling from a human from the future. Um, on Just Tap In with my friend Amelia Ortiz. And one of the humans from the future who I've been working with was talking a lot about these crafts. So that'll come out probably in a few weeks. Keep an eye on his channel and we'll go deeper into that specific type of craft. I just wanted to share with you. The council is believing that that could be closer towards 2029. I don't really remember what the human from the future said, though. And keeping in mind the humans from the future could be on like a completely different timeline, but I doubt that. It's probably very close by. We have like 2028 to 2030 for most of the landings of these crafts. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful things. All right. Questions before we close. Let's see. Mm, yeah. Someone in live chat says the truth is that aggressive viruses and their cofactors are what trigger my MS symptoms. Yeah, I agree with that. And that's the trigger, but what is the actual core belief? The beings that are coming are going to be presenting these prism projects and these prism healing devices that mirror our core beliefs back to us and then energetically lift our vibration so powerfully that we choose something more loving, more positive. And we choose it in a clear and more helpful vibration. Not that pain isn't helpful, but we don't have to evolve in that way, right? So when we're encouraged because we feel so much love vibrating within us and mirrored back to us, then we can shift our belief that caused negative, painful things such as MS, different cancers, but particularly neurological. Some of the first miracles that happen from these crafts are healings from MS, healings from Parkinson's, healings from Alzheimer's and dementia, um, neurological genetic disorders of certain kinds. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Questions. Let's see if we have any more questions. Let me see. I see a bunch of comments, but I don't see questions. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I don't see. Can they personally help us? Yes, we answered that. All right. Any more questions before we go today? Immediately after this, I'm going over to Patreon to go further with an open channeling with the Galactic Council of Nine. And a lot of the fleet commanders that are in those crafts are going to be talking to us, so you can continue your questions there. But I will take questions here for a while before we do that. But immediately after that, I'm going over to Patreon to do more about all of this. The solar flash, what the council has often said, and we will repeat, the solar flash isn't something big happening in your skies in one particular moment. It's been something because we receive the flash in a slower and lower density. Most human forms are a third density expression. You receive little amounts of it in time, little amounts of it in time. And some of it is happening at a more amplified level right now. And you will notice that some of you who've been sending me videos of like the flashes of lights everywhere, that isn't like the solar flash. That's just like cars being affected and car lights being affected and street lights being affected by one of the bigger solar flare experiences that you've been having, because all this stuff in our skies, there's a lot going on in the geomagnetic activity. So you're experiencing that consciousness flash, and it is happening right now. Okay. It's not something that is going to be huge. It's happening that everybody sees in our skies. It's going to be something more that you feel. All right. Okay. We will talk another day about March 29th. I do want to cover that one for those of you who are in chat asking about it, but we will cover that. All right. Thank you so much. I will see you really, really soon on Patreon, and we are going to go deeper into and Ask the Galactic Council of Nine. We're going to go deeper.